Much Ado About Curtains. This poem corresponds to chapter 12 of Yuppies Invade My House at Dinner Time, and it is titled, If the Reebok Fits, Wear It. This poem, the title comes from an argument in the book where a lot of the BNRs are complaining about how yuppies, which in this case would definitely refer to themselves as puppies, so rather poor rather than well off, don't use curtains on their windows, and like people can see what they're doing and they're really disturbed by that. So that's where that comes from, because this poem is definitely from the perspective of, you could probably refer to the writer as a yuppie or a puppy, depending. And like I mentioned in the previous poem, there is an argument to be made about certain practices. And so this poem was really inspired by the letter that gives a little bit more of historical insight into practices that you would see people who are described as elite practicing, which more and more is like less true of a certain group. Things like brunch or like drinking, Pellegrino. And then in the poem, there's a sort of meeting between someone who would be the writer's parents' age and himself, and also just showcases the difference between one yuppie to the next or one puppy to the next, because there is also a some discussion in the book about you just see a person's age, how do you know how well off they are, or the practices that they might engage in. Much Ado About Curtains. I am eons of Brooks Brothers suits, walking alone to the laundromat, because that's where I do my laundry, and my cover is blown, or rather I am blown out of proportion from my cover. If I don't hold the door for eons, there's tension, and it shows in the face of every B&R. So I mimic their tight-lippedness, walk this tightrope on home until I reframe and remember. All New Yorkers are like this. I confirm my plans for brunch at the Gold Coast, a practice fit for the weekend, where time can be taken to enjoy a larger breakfast late morning, cited to satisfy our palates after a morning hunt in 1895, and support women in the workforce who needed a break from cooking at home, so I can watch my figure, another age-old practice many before me found wealth in. I mustn't spend too much, though, as I save for my future in the suburbs. It must be in my head, but then my head hears the familiar gossip of how sloppily I live, and confused at the notion of dressing neatly but living in a pigsty, I do admit I contain multitudes, and as such I return home to my shared apartment where my roommate has yet to clean his room, and mine sparkles with all the pride of a young, upwardly mobile professional, rocking the latest pair of Reeboks, those that bear resemblance to my father's own.